It's yet another episode of Voices from the Front Lines of Climate Change. We have conversations with the people who are fighting climate change in our communities. And today we are taking you to Kuwadzana, where we are talking to TaaBho, who is fighting the heavily polluted community, not by policies, not by demonstrations, not by anything, but using trees, planting trees, collaborating with many people, including schools, so that they green the ghetto.
TaaBho Greenie. I'm a cultural and environmental justice advocate. I'm also the founder of the Green the Ghetto movement, which is composed of Greening Kuwadzana project, Greening Active project, Greening Mabuku, and Greening whatever the other ghetto that we are going to be in. Yeah, so it's a network of green hubs, so to speak, centers of green activities like planting trees, advocating for climate justice, environmental justice, particularly environmental justice.
What inspired you to start the Greening Kuwadzana or Greening the City project?
Green the Ghetto project.
Okay.
Yeah, because the thing is, I'm particular about that because yes, the city, but I'm focusing particularly on low-income, high-density suburbs. Okay. That's where my story begins. I was born and raised in Kuwadzana, for most of my time. So.
Hence you started with the city Kuwadzana.
That's why I started with Kuwadzana, because I was born, I think I came here in 1993. So I've been here for quite some time. In 2017, I started here. I was at the University of Zimbabwe.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm an economic historian. I was doing my economic history master's degree. So I used to commute on a daily basis from Kuwadzana to Mount Pleasant, where UZ is located. So in Kuwadzana, we have a bus stop, Pisa, it's what, I don't know how it feels like, but this, I think it feels something like this.
Yeah.
An hour later, Mount Pleasant. All of a sudden, the environment has changed. I now breathe better.
Who breathes and
breathes, I mean, everything is just beautiful, because of the quality of the air you are even breathing. That's when I started trying to understand why, and then I started realizing we have differences in microclimatic conditions, mainly because of tree density.
Okay.
I realized everywhere I am in Mount Pleasant, I'm surrounded by trees. Here in Kuwadzana, I'm going to 2-3 trees, which I get in desert, whereas Mount Pleasant, Chisipita, Borodale, it's more like you're in a forest. I see Kuwadzana, Glenview, we're in the desert. So I was determined to change that tree density disparity to make sure that Kuwadzana, Heathcliff, and Glenora matches the tree density.
That is in low density.
In Highlands. So that's what inspired me to start the Green Kuwadzana project in 2020.
Okay, when you started, how did the community take you? How did they become also to understand the same perspectives that you're having, that this community needs trees? Okay,
the thing is, like coming from a low-income high-density suburb, you have majority of the things that you have seen are only negative. At some time, are positive developments. We used to have a good amount of trees. We no longer have. We used to have my football grounds. We no longer have. We used to have my recreational facilities. We no longer have. So everything in my high-density suburbs is always on the downward. It's always on the negative. So for people who have experienced negative changes for over a long period of time, when something positive comes, they feel like they are not connected to it, or it has nothing to do with them. So when we started in 2020, people were skeptical. Nobody came, you know. And then the majority of the people who came, they came through Let's Build in the Future, because we partnered with Let's Build in the Future. So the people from this year, other communities who came here to officially launch the Kuwadzana project with us. So the community was skeptical, and to make it worse, sometime in December 2020, 23 December 2020, we planted something like 300 trees. 23 December, 1 January.
Oh.
The community park here, the Kuwadzana 4 major park. Within a period of 3 months, we did the dances. Zakapiswa, zakadzurwa, particularly the tree inonzi Lucky Bean Mutiti. Iwachadzurwa kutobiwa.
Oh, it's okay. So Mutiti, I understand it's an indigenous tree.
Yeah, my park we only put my indigenous trees. Nothing, because we are creating an indigenous trees park. So people would vandalize, people would steal, you know. And also, it was partly our fault, because we thought if people see us planting trees, they were just automatically going to come. You know, we were wrong. So, but because we together 2021, apostolic churches. So we approached them, we talked to them, made them understand the benefits of what we are doing. Because some of them might have so in congregation. So they were easier to lure. You guys just imagine Magagara a shade under a shed. When you engage them at the endless. You see, the community bit by bit. I see when we made our major breakthrough was in 2023, when we had our first Dance for Climate Action, the first edition. Our efforts at Namara, so we cannot reach a wider audience, and we noticed that Kuwadzana alone does not inspire change. And the majority of the people we want to reach who are actually participating in vandalism are the young generation. And the young generation resonates better with urban arts like Zindanzo, like hip hop, like dance, you know. So we started creating music or doing the events with the Dance for Climate Action, which lured so many young people. When they came, they heard the message, and that's when our voluntary base was from, I think by 2023, we were just less than 20 people. Takashuta, and I'm no longer sure about the figures, but Takashuta with over 50 people overnight. Yeah.
So how many trees have you planted so far? Not just in Kuwadzana. I also understand that you also donate some trees in schools.
Oh, well, yeah. I think to date, the last pandemic episode account stands about 7,500, but that was for 2024. 2025, at statistics but there's a possibility to maybe almost 8.5 trees we have planted for the past 5 years.
Oh, that's so interesting. Kuwadzana is one of the most heavily polluted urban areas in Harare. Do you happen to have statistics, or do you happen to have maybe looked into it? How much is it polluted in the air? We are trying to understand how bad it is as compared to other urban areas in Harare.
Okay. Yeah, we are actually in the process of trying to quantify the quality of air in collaboration with urban data. Okay. So it's something that is in process in terms of trying to quantify pollution as far as maybe dump sites. At some point, we're interested in trying to eradicate dump sites in Kuwadzana. We noticed that almost on average, after every 15 meters, we're coming across a dump site. Not just a dump site, a smelly dump site, you know. And whenever there is water, when it's coming out, that's it, like at least 3 days average, we get water. It comes in a sewage, you see. So that's another pollution as well. Marine people sewage and it's supposed to okay. So it's pretty much difficult to quantify how much our communities are polluted, but I think it's something which is worth attempting to quantify.
Oh, I can see in the background there are so many trees. What type of trees that are in this nursery? Do we also have exotic trees, or it's all about indigenous trees?
All right, I would say 85% of the trees here are indigenous trees.
Why indigenous?
Our focus is more on indigenous trees. One, because they are scarce to find. People really don't, deal with indigenous trees, so it's a niche market for him. And the other thing, Mr. Building is trying to, preserve tangible cultural heritage in as far as trees are concerned. That's one thing that made me align with them, because, like I said, I'm a cultural justice activist, or rather advocate. Mm-hmm. The whole idea of preserving our tangible cultural heritage is at the core of the Green Ghetto movement. So, see some indigenous trees, because our biophysical systems are different from other continents. So someone said to see what works with the dog does not work with the cat.
Yeah.
So what works with the environment here in Zimbabwe may not work in the in Europe. It's not a coincidence to it's not a coincidence. So it means even the type of winds and one the type of a fly in Zimbabwe
is different from the type of fly in Europe.
For us to preserve our biosystems as well as biodiversity, indigenous trees are the way to go, because they are compatible with our soil types, with our environment, with
the temperatures.
And the temperatures,
Okay, so how do you envision yourself? How do you see your project maybe in the next 5 to 10 years?
All right. When I was asked that question 2 years later, I said, no, in 5 years, maybe I see my 5,000 trees. But if you ask me today, I think with the way it's being received by different organizations coming on board, people like the Southern Environments, developing interests, I think maybe it will be greening ghettos in Africa. But 5 years from now, I think we would have covered much part of the ghettos in Zimbabwe. Maybe Sakuba and Luveve, as maybe 10 years from now, transcend Zambia,
covering the whole continent.
Yeah, covering the whole continent, because the mission is to uplift people of African descent wherever they are, and greening our communities is one way of restoring our dignity as a people.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, still recording.
Okay.
So now let's talk about community sustainability.
Okay.
You spoke about bringing in young people with different ways like music, arts and stuff. Are there any other ways that you see that there is a gap? If we do this, we can bring everyone, not just young people, or maybe we have women in the community who are not doing anything, who spend one day at home. What other ways do you think that we can also bring them into this project and they participate?
Okay, first of all, you have to understand that Green Ghetto movement is not a youth movement. It's a transgenerational movement, because fighting for environmental justice is not only a work of young people. Even older people come with wisdom that young people may not have, especially in terms of sustainability, and they also have to be part of the process, even young kids, because the mind of a child is where the revolution begins. If I tell you the idea of coming up in tags to take the trees and to name them after the person who planted, he was a grade 7 kid who came up with that idea.
Oh, okay.
So of which a grade 7 is not yet a youth. They're still a child one. So it's a trans-generational movement. But speaking of which, so far our efforts are mainly, in terms of arts, visual arts, performative arts. For instance, we have a wall in this Let's Street Graffiti. Like I said, okay, this is a real road. It means everyone who's passing through, they have to read the message one way or the other. Green Kuwadzana, green the ghetto, climate justice now, environmental justice now, the whole wall. And so many people have being directed to our offices, to inquire how they can contribute, how they can join the movement. So it's another way of reaching out. But if we had funding, we would have sponsored ads, sponsored ads, and also increase our social media visibility or our digital footprint. Because right now we even still struggling to put together a website.
Okay.
If we had strong funding, if we had backup, we would have reached more people. Take on it, road shows here, school quiz, competitions. Kuenda paokesha papa nerejenita kuenda kujaraniti, and people coming to absorb the message and to get to understand why they have to contribute. Because remember, the people who are talking about are the same people who are suffering the consequences of direct hits.
Exactly.
The people who are breathing dust, who are breathing hot air, they also want change. These people, they know that there could be a difference because they have relatives or they go to work, low income, high income, my income, low suburbs. I mean, the Islands, other people in town, avenues, they can feel the difference. I think that gardens, they can tell the difference. So these people are actually easy to sell the message to because they are living the undesirable, they're experiencing the undesirable substances.
Yeah. You spoke about challenges a bit, but we're going to talk about the challenges that you are facing after this. I want to understand something. You spoke about more than 80% of the trees that are here in Isari, or trees that you plant, are indigenous trees. We have the generation set. Those people who probably don't understand. You spoke of Mtiti, Patambotanga, and I could easily know Mtiti. I know Mtiti just because I grew up in rural areas. But this generation that is currently actually Amatuke, so they call them, they don't know. My indigenous trees are they don't know what they do. Some of them are medicines, and some of them they can bring us even food. Would you like to elaborate on that, and how much are you preserving them? Maybe the next generation is just so low. I mean, the Aripo,
it's quite unfortunate. Mr. Duri always says, and it's very unfortunate and it's very sad, and we are failing on our part if we do not increase indigenous trees. It's never in our universities right now. They obviously know my medicines, my pharmaceuticals, they come from my trees. But there's lack of sufficient knowledge as to how our indigenous therapeutic systems are used to, to use trees directly, for healing different types of ailments, even serious diseases. We used my indigenous trees here. Right now, in this 21st century, as an independent country, at only 45 years in independence, to find it up a stage, we are taking these trees, teach what test them laboratory, to find it, look at the COVID vaccination, teach use anamuranga, beg your salutaries, the wise car really take my beg your SM, as in the indigenous to Zimbabwe. We should be experimenting with those. We should be cancer cures. We know there's a rash there, Africana. We should be experimenting so to find and get to the center. You can export my medicine.
Other
continents.
Yeah, I also remember the time when this COVID-19 struck, and people started to know. Like, I was also surprised when people were saying, there's what's that tea? Zumbani, I know Zumbani, but people were starting to like they were knowing they were being introduced for the first time.
And they were actually discovering, just imagine, discovering
Zumbani.
And you see, so I don't know. I think botanists, us, environmental and activists, people work with trees. I think we should increase our efforts to make sure that we popularize indigenous trees as opposed to exotic trees, because it's understandable before us or before this generation. We only knew my indigenous trees and they were everywhere, so no one wanted to invest in something that you can find anywhere. So we were more interested in my exotics because they were new, they were for aesthetic values, or easier for the fruits, mangoes, chichis, but that up to an extent whereby we started putting our own indigenous systems at the back while teaching forward with Western exotic trees and Western therapeutics, thereby doing a disservice to our own knowledge systems as a people. So I see it as an extension of colonialism, epistemic coloniality. What we know is what we are told. But our own indigenous knowledge systems are divorced from those. We wait for people to come and tell us to preserve our environment. Yes, we used to do it or
using indigenous knowledge.
So it's part and parcel of the process of neglecting our indigenous trees, while it's putting forward or concentrating more on things which are exotic.
Okay, you tried maybe to document his knowledge?
Oh yes, we are in every event I would do, be it food trees in schools, be it tree line streets, be it the indigenous trees park. In the process, as we are educating whoever is there, we are also writing down the information, because it's also I will tell you, if you only have 10% of the knowledge, people come even different people, they come, they tell us it's also we say we maybe very good about cancer. Cancer cheated. So we are actually learning in the process. I'm forgetting the name, but in breast cancer and indigenous therapeutics. So in collaboration with Zinata, the Zimbabwe National Traditional Healers Association. So they came to gather materials that they found Susano cancer, and they are only to discover that it's cancer shit. And I had they tell you the actual part of the tree, the whole tree.
You need to check this part.
Exactly.
I remember growing up with my grandmother. There was a tree, I'm forgetting it's long back. So there was a tree which reminds me of
let's imagine. I remember there was even what was her name? Magida. She's a herbalist near a clinic in Waterfalls, a herbal clinic. She taught us when I think about cancer. And yeah, I was not going to tell my VA, but there are processes.
And a way of
and a specific time. Timing is everything as well. And for instance, when I have the animal collector when there is full moon shit.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
when there is full moon. I'm going to imagine full moon. It's important. You know, the way kutokumbira masango acho, you know, kutotango wakumbira leziwe nokumbira ndakumbubata magusi andizia ochera ugotrapata ukuda andizia by the time unozodzoka unoona chinga to regenerator kudhara and you don't cut the whole tree uchiti kutora medicines that's totally wrong. Saka mama herbs aitanga sashana because they are collected the wrong way. Saka there's so much information. This is what we know is less than 10%. We're actually students, even the best of the best. They are still learning because everyone has a gift, a unique gift, as far as you know the industries are concerned.
Okay, so how do you think? Maybe what ways can the African community use to combat climate change besides technological ways? How best can we do that?
All right. We cannot neglect the fact that with the 21st century is a technological century, and however, access to technology we don't have it, and for whatever reason. Yeah, I know some of the technology we use are lithium. We're one of the biggest producers of lithium, but still we have nothing, and that could be beyond me. And Mr. Government man has to explain to me why we don't have that technology yet. Tisuma producers, lithium, and so many other minerals that are contributing towards mitigating climate change. But I envision TaaBho, a combination of indigenous knowledge systems and technology. They should complement each other. For instance, I know there was a way they could tell there was going to be a shangwa that's drought. And maybe it's certain type of a bird. It also meant kukuyama flags. And so that should complement early warning systems, you know. We have plenty of sunlight. Why are we not a solar nation? You see, I'm complaining Pisa. Why are our roofs not, you know, as mama solar panels? Why are they not solarized? Why is battery lithium is $1,000 when lithium is mined?
Is mined in the country.
You see, so I see a way. I see a future whereby, so essentially, I see a future whereby, you know, indigenous knowledge systems are being complemented by, you know, Western technology or even Asian technology to avert, you know, the impact of climate change on the African continent.
Okay, so lastly, let's talk about the challenges that you are facing in this project of cleaning the ghetto.
Yeah, we have several challenges that we have been facing. I can start with the financial challenge because it's the biggest, you know, challenge. It's a major obstacle whereby just having the right finances can guarantee our success. So issue that we don't have, you know, funding, or we are not yet making any, you know, any income out of this. Our main challenge is to monitor the trees. You know, growing trees is a process of which planting them is 10% of the work. 90% has to do with the monitoring, maintenance. You see, so we have no capacity to go around Kuwadzana, Heathcliff, Airport, you know, to follow the trees because we don't have the financial capacity. We also don't have the financial capacity to reach a wider audience so that we can have a higher number of people participating, you know, in our events, so that they can also be part of the guardians of the movement of the trees themselves. So we cannot sponsor our adverts. We cannot do road shows, you know, trying to reach a wider audience. We cannot pay for newspaper articles, you know, things like those. But if we had the financial capacity, I believe we would have done better things. We even don't have the ability to be mobile. You know, we don't have cars. I personally don't even have a personal car. I cannot yet afford a personal car. If I had, it was going to be easier for me. Never mind that it's my personal car. Already I'm using my personal money to, you know, to
Go around.
go around. You know, if I had a personal car, I would have just, you know, follow the trees. But then we don't have the resources to do the work. That's the major challenge. The other challenge has to do with, you know, should I call it the governance system or the functions of our city, the city of Harare. Yeah, our major, you know, sponsors. But then we are facing challenges whereby we can, for instance, we want to do a tree-lined streets, you know, project. On the one hand, we are dealing with main roads, so automatically we have to deal with one local roads. And city of Harare roads, they come, they help us to mark my species, to find simamiti and stuff, to take water pizza. And then later on, maybe waste management, they want to clean, you know, sometimes they burn, you know, and then the trees are also burnt in the process. Or maybe for some reason, like wakavala billboards, so even a young tree is cut, but yet Takaiswe population, roads, or the city of Harare parks, they gave us that space to plant the trees, you know. So the coordination, it will affect our output. That's one. And then another challenge, I think support we have it. Another challenge is poverty. You know, like we are working in low-income disabled, so the cases of extreme hunger are not uncommon. So you find that because of hunger, because of poverty, we have higher rates of urban farming. Urban farming entails, you know, burning the land. Is a process of like preparing
the next season.
Preparing for the next season, you see. So when they burn, they are also burning the trees.
Down.
So, and in some instances, they're even cutting down trees because they don't want to compete with the resources of the soil, like fertility and water, or even sunlight. So they cut down the trees so that their maize can, you know, do well. So those are some of the challenges, and really we have to fight poverty at a national level for us to be successful with this, you know, Green the Ghetto project, with enhancing our urban forests.
Okay. Thank you so much, TaaBho. It was nice having you here.
Thank you for having me.